So many of us are taught that we could be anything that we want to be. And I know that that differs for many people based upon the home that you grew up in. Sometimes the messages aren't necessarily coming from your parents or family. It could just literally be the era that you grew up in on the television, radio, whatever. You may have been told that somehow if you dream it, you can be it. Do you remember sayings like that? And while it's a wonderful thing to grow up in that type of environment where society is kind of letting you know that you do have the control over your life to make certain decisions. Once you reach a certain age, you can make certain decisions for yourself. Even if you had a crappy childhood, things were rough. We have heard many stories through movies, television, what have you. However, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I've been doing a lot of thinking and chatting with one of my closest friends that I say like a sister, but that is a sister to me. And I started to think, we're told a lot of things. And in recent years, you might hear terms like, you got to do the work, right? And then it's like, well, what's the work, right? The work. So we've come to learn that the work has to do with like inner work, go to therapy, take care of certain things like figuring out who you are, figuring out if you feel like you're stuck in a particular place in your life to try to figure that out. However, I don't think that anyone's really talking about the fact that there's a step before you do that. And that step doesn't necessarily have anything to do with gathering more information to consume. We have all the videos, we have all the books, we have multiple types of ways in which people can consume information, get help. I love reading self-help books. Honestly, that's one of my favorite books to read out of anything. I love things that have to do with getting you going, good habits, good organizational skills. How can you fix this, fix that, fix that? However, when I'm talking to my sister friend, I something kind of hit me and I said to her, nobody really talks about the fact that there are steps before that. Nobody really talks about the fact that before a person could do the work, your mind has to even figure out whether or not you are even in the category of needing something more. There are a lot of people walking around, and in many areas of our lives, we might experience not being very clear on something. So what I mean by that is you may not even know that you're lost somehow in your thinking because you have either grown up with a certain conditioning, either from your upbringing in your home. It could just be outside society, close-knit influences that make you think that you are thinking in your right mind about whatever it is that you're doing, when in actuality, you're quite distracted. So you don't have the clarity to even be able to say, I think something is wrong here before I could even think about needing help, before I could even think about whether or not there's work for me to do. And then, okay, I've identified, because my mind is clear, then I identified it. Then I can say, oh, what can I do? But it's like we tend to just talk about, oh, if there's an issue, here it is for this. Whether, you pill for this or a book for this or a podcast for that or a video for that. There are a lot of people, and I'm not going to exclude myself necessarily, but I just realized that it takes having the eyes to see and a certain clarity of mind first before a person can even begin to identify if there's an issue and whether or not there's work to be done. Because people just may not know. They just may not know, or they may not even realize that they're blind to something in some way. And then it begs the question, so what do we do in order to be able to see? And sometimes I believe that there may never be a day for some people to be able to see whatever that thing might be, because everyone's idea of what is the right path, the right way of thinking, the right way of reasoning something, honestly, it's very, very different. It's very, very different. And what might seem like it is common sense to one person or sensible or whatever the case may be doesn't make sense to the other. And I've recently really started to think about that and recently started to say, you know what? I'm going to move into a mode of acceptance of the fact that things may never line up for some people. Things may never line up, especially when they have a strong sense of being justified in their lifestyle, their behavior, whatever the case may be. So literally, you have people who are dealing with some type of substance abuse issue, and they may reason to themselves that, well, they take care of their family, they take care of their affairs really well, they don't see an issue with dibbling and dabbling into some type of, illegal substance here or there, because for them, they've justified it enough to say somehow they deserve it. Not understanding that their mind is not clear enough to even recognize maybe they shouldn't do that, or maybe their reasoning is faulty. So I know it might sound like I'm rambling a lot, but it really did hit me that there is a step or two before someone can even have the clarity of mind to do the quote unquote work that they need to do on themselves to feel better about themselves, feel better about their lives, feel better about the decisions that they're making, things like that. And in thinking about that statement or having those realizations, it made me think about areas in my life where I might have one area where I'm pretty darn clear about what it is that I'm trying to do. So, for example, I'm pretty darn clear that I really want to succeed in just being on YouTube. I'm pretty darn clear about that. I'm pretty darn clear because I had the clarity of mind first to think, hey, this is something that I've always wanted to do. I see other people succeeding with it. I know that I have it in me to succeed with it as well. I know that it's something that can, I joined an options group, give me more options and just more freedom to do different things with my life. I know that I have a clear enough mind to understand what are my roadblocks with doing this particular thing. Well, for years, fear of being seen, blah, blah, blah. But in order for me to even be able to articulate, hey, I know I have a fear of being seen, I know there are things that I need to push through with that, my mind had to be clear. My mind had to be clear enough to be able to say, I have a problem that I need to solve if I want to do this particular thing. And a lot of people don't realize that they are stuck because they're not mentally clear enough to even recognize that they have an issue with something. And so there's work before you can do the work. There were things that I had to think about beforehand. There are ways in which I had to pump myself up. I had to put myself into an environment, a group of wonderful ladies that are doing the same thing. There's something about having the group, having the accountability partner, seeing, our mentor coach do it. That's a few, that's, I don't want to say a few steps, many steps ahead of us, to see where she started, to see where her mentor started, to see, okay, they can do it. Now we feel like we can do it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's push through. Let's do the best we can. Is it perfect? No, but we're still doing our best to show up, to come back, to be consistent as much as we can, and whatever that may look like during this 30-day challenge. Now we're, well over 15. I think we're on day 17 now or something. However, the point is that in order for me to even get to this point, which there was a lot of work done mentally in order for me to get to this point, there was work that had to be done behind the scenes before I could even do that. And even me showing up on camera and doing this video today is a part of the work. Every single time that I show up, I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it in a way that is to honestly and truly get me to understand that we can do this. I can do this. Many people have done this. We can do this. And every single time we do it and we're consistent, it gets a little better, a lot better actually. So anyways, I really had to think about it, that sometimes things sound easier said than done. It just sounds so easy for people to say, just do this, just do that. And it's like, you can't just do anything if your mind is not clear. And when I say clear, I'm talking about free of substances, free of things that might not be some type of illegal substance, but we have all kinds of different addictions, of different things that could be holding us back from having a clear enough mind to be able to think, and say, who am I? What am I trying to do? Where am I? Do I like where I am? Why do I even think the way I think? I don't think people even stop to think, why do I think the way that I think? Is there anything faulty in any messages that I've received throughout my life? You have a lot of people that they won't question anything. They won't question anything. They grew up in the church, or they grew up in some type of situation in which you were programmed a certain way, and that's what they know, and they're just gonna just do that. And to question it is a no-no. And there's nothing wrong with church, I'm just trying to say. Although there are some churches that something is wrong, but we don't have to get into that. I'm just of the belief that it is okay to question yourself. It is okay to question anything. I don't think anything is off limits when it comes to finding more clarity, making sure that you are deciphering things in a way that is not holding you back, but pushing you forward, and making sure that the light that shines inside of you is not being squashed just because you've had a repeated belief, or repeated statements, or repeated things that you've been told. Then you sit back and you say, well, how is it actually helping your life? You don't have an answer. You may not have an answer. So that's pretty much it. I got a little rambly today. Got a little rambly today. Today is technically supposed to be, I think when I first started out, the first week with videos, I said I wanted Wednesdays to be a behind the business wisdom Wednesday. So maybe I'll do another video that has kind of a slightly different twist on that. But for the most part, or maybe we could consider this part one to that video. Because to me, it all ties together. It all ties together. A lot of building a business does have, at least for me, does have a lot to do with knowing myself, knowing who I am, and knowing what it is that I'm trying to project out into the world in order to receive the exchange back, monetary exchange back. And I know personally that whatever I project out, I want it to be something positive. So, all right, you know what I'll do? I'll stop the video. I'll stop the conversation here, I should say. And this will be like part 1, and then I'll go into part 2. So in this one, we dove into the fact that there's work that has to be done before the work can be done. So the next video, I think that I'll talk a little bit about when you get in tune with certain things, or when you're on the journey of getting in tune with who you are actually, and then how that translates to potentially a particular business that you want to run. If you're new here, my name is Keisha Melissa. This is Keisha Melissa Speaks. And I am also the owner of Sage Advice Candle Company. It's an online company. I sell coconut wax candles and room sprays. I do not have a physical store, but it's just online. Make them in my home and sell them at festivals in my area. So for the most part, I am okay with sharing a little bit about that journey, as well as just personal aspects of my life that can help anyone that may be struggling with a particular area, wanting to do something. Anyone that's on the journey that I am currently to be visible. I'm in a 30-day visibility challenge because I want different options for my life. I want certain things to make it so that I have the freedom to do certain things I want to do. All of it ties together, everything that I discuss on this channel, because I know that even in doing what I'm doing right now, there has to be a clarity that I constantly remind myself up to say, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing it to help others. I'm doing it to better myself. I'm doing it because it's important for me not to fear being seen. It's important for me to not fear sharing what could help other people, even if it's just to understand that in something of a particular season in your life, or something that you might be going through, that you're not alone in that. So, all right, we're going to stop right there. So we'll call this part 1. Okay, like and subscribe, not just because I'm asking, but because we love to make new friends here. We love to make new friends that are interested in having a clear vision for their life, having a clear mind to get to know themselves better. I don't think there's going to be anything in this life that you could do better than constantly getting a chance to know yourself, refine yourself, and figure out the things that you want to do for yourself. And to just know that you are worth being visible. We want those kinds of friends around here. And I'm definitely going to do a video, because I always say stay young and juicy, but you may not understand what that means. It's a mindset. We do not think of ourselves as downtrodden here. We do not think of ourselves as old and washed up. We don't do that to ourselves. And we need more friends that believe in that mindset. So stay young and juicy. I'll see you on the next video.